We are really happy to have Shawna Curry here this afternoon for the next hour with your lifestyle strategy. Yeah, okay. I just learned this. Yeah, and so we're really happy to have her here this afternoon. So here she is. Hello. So yes, I'm Shawna Curry from Your Lifestyle Strategy, and I help women to redesign their health so that they can live a richer life. And I don't just work with women because women are supported by men, and so it's supporting them, their families, everyone that's around them, and it's looking at that from a whole bunch of different perspectives, more of the holistic perspective of things like your sleep, your nutrition, your exercise, and we're going to talk about those today. Now, I was at an event last night, another women's empowerment event, and before I get too far in, I just want to say a huge thanks to Peter and Jamila for having me here today. It's really great to be involved with events that support women, that empower women, and really help women to grow in their businesses and in their personal lives. So this event that I went to last night, similar philosophy, similar concept, trying to grow and empower women to run their businesses to the best of their abilities. And this event, the question came up, how do you, to the speaker that was there, how do you achieve balance in your life? And that's a question that I see that comes up a ton in these types of presentations where we're trying to empower women, we're trying to give some inspiration, and we have this speaker that comes up that's running a successful business, and we look at her like she's on a pedestal, and we think, wow, she must have it all together, she must have this balance thing in order, how do I achieve that? And what I found really interesting was that that's really tied to what I'm going to talk about today, is the whole concept of balance and the idea of mixing as a contrary to balance. Now, how many of you have ever tried to achieve balance in your life and worked really hard to try to balance all those balls in the air? I know that I have, and I'm sure, you know, whether you've consciously done it or unconsciously done it, you've tried to achieve better balance in your life through different aspects. And so we have these balls that we're juggling. One's your sleep ball, one's your stress ball, one's your family ball, one's your work ball. Maybe you've got some pets in there, and at some point, one of those balls is going to drop, and it's going to hit the floor. And that's because this idea of balance really doesn't exist. It's impossible. It's super difficult to have everything be exactly equal all the time and have the same focus and the same amount of energy and attention brought to it. So I'm going to give you a different perspective rather than constantly working towards this idea of balance, this idea of perfection that doesn't exist, that is not sustainable. I'm going to give you an alternative, a different way of looking at things and a different way of thinking about things. So recently, a couple weeks ago, I just got back from a big adventure. It was a small hike in California, you may have heard of it. It's called the John Muir Trail. And for those of you who know or may not know, it's a short 350 kilometer trail that we did over the course of 18 days. Now, in no means am I a superwoman or this huge goal chaser. It was just a dream of my husband's. And he's like, hey, do you want to come with me? And I'm like, hey, sure, that sounds like a really great idea. And I'm not quite sure how he convinced me that hiking for 18 days back to back was a really good idea, but somehow he convinced me and I got roped into this big adventure. And so we went down and we hiked for 18 days. So that's what this backpack is here for. Now, when you're out hiking in the woods for 18 days, you have a lot of time on your hands to think. We did 9 passes. 5 of those were over 11,000 feet. And so it was just this huge accomplishment to get through this. But like I said, I had a lot of time on my hands to think and to really separate myself from my business, from coaching women, from working in corporate functions, doing presentations, speaking, and just really think about the bigger picture of how all that stuff ties together and how that really connects to the idea of this sense of balance and this sense of trying to be perfect and be more and live more. And we all have this vision that we want to live a richer life. We want more out of life. We want to have more energy. We want to lose weight. We want to be more successful. Maybe we want to be more popular. We have all these goals that we're striving for, but because we're juggling all these balls, and one of them drops here and one of them drops there, it just becomes this losing battle where we just feel like we can never get ahead. So let's figure out how backpacking connects to the idea of mixing as a better concept to balance. Now, in my practice, I talk about 7 core pillars of health. This is your pillar of sleep. So your health is kind of like a table. You've got 4 table legs: sleep, nutrition, exercise, and mental health. Your digestion is the tabletop that ties it all together, and then on top of your table are your medical conditions and your lifestyle factors. So hiking, 18 days, sleep was a bit of a challenge. Every night was in a different place. The ground was slightly different, depending on whether we were camping higher up on a pass, whether we were camping low in the meadow, changed the temperature of where we were camping. Some nights were darker because of where we were. There were maybe more trees around us. Some nights were brighter because we were in a meadow. It was a full moon. There were lots of stars out. So there's a whole bunch of variables that came into play along our way that affected my ability to sleep. Now, how might that relate to your life is looking at what you can control versus what you can't control, focusing on what you can control, and just letting the rest of the stuff go and not getting stressed out about it. So what I did is I brought a sleep mask. I brought earplugs, and I didn't necessarily use them every night, but it was predictability that I was able to guarantee it was going to be dark if it was really bright out. If there were really big sounds, you think, well, you're in the middle of the woods, why do you need earplugs? But if anyone has ever camped beside a raging river, you know that it's really difficult to sleep with this whooshing that's constantly going by. It sounds like it's barreling in, and it's going to come into your tent. So controlling for what you can and letting the rest of your sleep go. Nutrition is your next pillar. Now this lovely thin package is a meal, dehydrated food. When you're hiking for 18 days, you're not able to carry fresh food with you. You're not able to eat fruits and vegetables, to have a salad, to have this huge luxury of fresh food. And it really is a luxury. So this is what I ate for 18 days. Now, at home, I eat a ton of fresh food. I eat very little processed food, and I needed calories. So I ate this, I ate chocolate bars, I ate protein bars, things that I don't usually eat at home. And what really got me thinking is thinking about what I'm eating and what I'm putting in my body and what kind of an impact that had on me today as well as tomorrow. So thinking about as I'm going up a pass and I'm going down a pass, depending on whether it was a day that we had a big pass or we had a little pass and how steep it was, I had to consider what my fuel and what my nutrition was going to be for that day. And so thinking about how I fueled today is going to impact how my body is going to perform tomorrow. So there were many days I was exhausted and I really didn't feel like eating. It wasn't something, when you get tired and you've been hiking all day, sometimes you're just really not hungry. And so I didn't want to eat. But I knew that the next day we were going to do this giant pass that was steep up, steep down, and I needed lots of energy to do that. So it's being prepared and fueling for that. In terms of your life and how that might apply is thinking about what your goals are. Are you trying to improve your energy? Are you trying to lose weight? What are your goals? And how is your decision on your food today going to impact what your outcome is tomorrow? So if you're trying to lose weight, having that ice cream today, it's going to taste delicious and be amazing and taste wonderful, but it may not help you with that longer term goal. And when you can connect what you're eating with what your long-term goals are, then it's really easy to separate the two and to not feel like you're making these big emotional decisions, but rather you're taking more control and you've got more power over what you're eating. These trusty boots of mine did a lot of walking. They survived the whole trip, no duct tape required. There were lots of people on the trip that needed duct tape for their shoes. So looking at exercise as a pillar, I got plenty of it. Hiking, 350 kilometers is a lot of exercise. And so that wasn't the issue. The issue was more, how do I rest and recover from that exercise? It's super important to get the rest and recovery to be able to get the benefit from the exercise. Otherwise, you just start digging yourself a hole that gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And so how did I take care of myself was doing things to support that rest and recovery. So we would start early in the morning, hiking at 5 o'clock in the morning, and then we would typically be done, because we started hiking so early, we would be done our hike usually 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock was our time frame. So that gave me plenty of time in the afternoon and the evening to put my feet in the cold river and to flush them out. That gave me plenty of time to stretch and to relax. And I find here in my practice, I almost have to hold people back more than I need to push them forward. Yes, there's some people that need a little bit of support and encouragement to exercise more, but for the most part, I find more people need to be held back and need to spend more time slowing down and focusing on bringing things that calm their hormones so they have less adrenaline, less stress hormones floating through their body, and they're able to get better results by actually doing less. Mental health. We're not talking mental illness, we're talking mental health. That's your ability to cope with stress, to feel relaxed, to have some calm and peace in your day. This is a sleeping pad that we chopped down in smaller pieces so that we could have a little sitting pad. So this came with us everywhere we went, on top of the foamy that I slept on, but it got pretty beat up, as you can see on the trip. But it was amazing because I could sit on it, I could fold it, lean against a rock, I could relax, I could stretch on it, I did yoga on it. So being able to use this as a tool to do things that calmed myself down. You think, what do you need to calm down from on a trip? Well, believe me, when you're doing a pass and you're going up and you're going down, that's a lot of energy and a lot of mental willpower that needs to go into that. And so it's having time to just refuel your energy stores so that you can feel more fulfilled. I'm also super competitive, and my natural tendency is that I like to try to keep up to my husband, who's much taller, much bigger, and much stronger than what I am. And so he's able to move ahead and to be faster. And so I'm trying to keep up to him. Like, wait for me. And on past trips, I've pretty much blown up because I've been trying to keep up to him. And obviously that doesn't work well when your legs are shorter and you're smaller and all of that. So from a mental health perspective, I really learned how to choose my attitude and to focus on what I'm capable of doing and not comparing myself to him, not trying to keep up to him. And I found by setting my own pace, going at my own rate, I was actually able to be stronger, to have more energy because I wasn't pushing in that red zone where it just became super challenging for me to keep up. I was able to just continue that pace. That same thing applies to your life. Rather than trying to compare yourself to others and try to constantly be better than the Joneses, be better than the next person, like I just need to keep doing that next thing. It's thinking about how do we be happy with where we're at and feel more fulfilled that way. Digestion. Whatever goes in must come out. So I had to go everywhere with this trusty little kit, which includes a shovel, because you need to bury it, and then some toilet paper and some wipes, because you got to clean your hands after. And so everything that you take with you, except for number 2, pretty much comes out with you. And so as a female, even number 1 is challenging. And it brought a little more awareness to my digestion and thinking, wow, at home, I don't think about it. You need to go to the bathroom, you just go. Out in the woods, you need a little more planning, a little more forethought. And what I found is that this lovely bottom of mine became a nice target for mosquitoes if I chose to go in a meadow or a grassy area or somewhere that was a little more exposed. So you had to be really deliberate in where you went. Now I make a joke about digestion, but we all do it, and we're all embarrassed to talk about it, what's normal, what's not normal. And so having that awareness of the connection, that tabletop that ties all 4 of those pillars together, how my exercise affected my digestion, how being away and having a lower stress level, how that improved my digestion, how sleeping better and having all of those factors revolve around each other, your digestion actually changes and you're able to have a different awareness of it than we would here. It's almost more of an inconvenience of like, oh, I just got to go do that. And we don't connect how that pain in your stomach might actually be connected to the fact that you didn't sleep good last night. Or it might be connected to the fact that you're really stressed out. And we just assume it's just a digestive thing and we totally separate that from everything else. So it's being aware of how your digestion connects to all those other pillars. Medical conditions. This is my first aid kit. There's all kinds of stuff in here. Being a nurse, I'm always prepared and I always have way too much. But being aware that there's always stuff that's going to come up. So on this trip, day number 1 started with altitude sickness. And we had worked our way down there. I thought we were going to be good. I had done some hikes at higher elevation, felt really great. Did the pass during the day. We were coming down. It was the easiest part of the day. We ended up going, I think it was 5 kilometers further than we planned because there was no water, so we had to keep pushing on. And ended up feeling really woozy and shaky and chalked it up to feeling, perhaps a little bit of heat stroke. Perhaps it was that I hadn't eaten enough, so I had a protein bar to get some extra food in. Maybe I hadn't drank enough, so I drank a bunch more. Kind of went away. And then for a couple of days dealing with that altitude sickness. The other big thing was blisters. And so I was really fortunate on big trips like this, people are really prone to blisters. So thinking about how can I prevent blisters in the first place? I was lucky I didn't get my first one till day 13 out of 18. So I'd say that's a pretty big win. And it was only a really tiny one because we were doing this giant switchback that kept going down and down and down. And so as your toes are jarring in your boots, it's having this constant rubbing that naturally is just going to cause blisters. So with your medical conditions, it's thinking about how you can be preventive and proactive. In the same way that I tried to plan for the blisters that might occur on my feet, and to be aware and to handle the altitude sickness as it came up, being aware of what I can manage and what I can't manage, what's realistic, what's not realistic, and trying to figure out, do I need medical support in your life, looking at what can you control for your medical conditions. Now you might say, I'm really healthy right now, I don't have much going on, but thinking about your family history, maybe everyone in your family has had diabetes. And so being aware that you're more predisposed to diabetes and doing what you can to prevent that in the first place, rather than trying to deal with it after the fact. It's always better to be healthy than to be sick and try to become healthy down the road. And the last pillar I have, I brought my maps for your lifestyle factors. And that's because the map of life, the path that you've plotted, the idea of perfection going from point A to point B, doesn't always work out. So we had some hiccups on our trip, stuff that came up that we had no control over. There were monsoon systems that came through this area. We were told the Sierras are the most stable mountain range in all of the world. You're not going to have to worry about weather. So we thought, okay, this is great. Monsoon systems rolled through every day, whether we wanted them to or not. And one day we ended up getting caught in a monsoon system. We had done the pass, we had made it over, we were excited because we thought we had cleared the storm. It was really black and stormy behind us. We're like, yes, we've done really good, our planning worked out. We planned our routes specifically so we would be over the pass before the storm hit because we knew it was going to hit. We were on our way down, we had already been going down for 2 hours, and then the monsoon hit. And the sky opened up and the torrential rain that came down just started out of nowhere. It didn't even drizzle, it just started bucketing rain. Wow. And then almost as quickly as the rain had started, it started hailing. And we looked around and we're in a big open valley. There's no trees, there's no rocks to hide under. It's literally a rock field that just keeps going down. So we're being pelted by hail. Our jackets are tucked all over us. We're getting soaked because the water is so fast. It's running down our legs, soaking into our boots from the top, not coming over the edges because it's just plastering our pants to our legs. And we just got soaked on this trip. And the lightning hits the valley, just across the valley from us. And it's one of those, the lightning bolt hits down and you think in your head that 1001, 1002, well, we counted 1000, boom. And it was right there. It was less than a kilometer away from us, in the exact direction that we were headed. Those are your lifestyle factors, the things that you cannot control. Sometimes stuff happens, and we all have stuff. Doesn't matter who you are. No one is immune to stuff. And guess what? It always happens when you don't want it to happen. When you think things are going well, when you want things to go well, that's when all that stuff tends to pile on. One thing after another, and you become overwhelmed. And so that stuff, your lifestyle factors, can tip your table one way or the other way and disrupt that. So that's why that concept of balance is so false and so unrealistic, and you're unable to achieve it, because the idea of balancing these 7 balls, your sleep, your nutrition, your exercise, your mental health, your digestion, your lifestyle factors, all of those components, they can't always be exactly equal. So rather than trying to make this perfection, this equality between all of them, you focus on one or another at different times in your life. So on the trail, even day to day, or hour to hour, or minute to minute, that focus shifted. Sometimes we were focused more on exercise because we were going up a pass, and I just had to focus on my breathing and getting myself over the ledge. Sometimes it was more focused on the stretching, on the recovery. It was more the mental health piece of fueling my energy store so I could keep doing that day after day. Sometimes it was the lifestyle factors. It's hailing today and we have to deal with this right now. This isn't something we can ignore. So if I'm trying to focus on my digestion while it's hailing and I'm trying to save my life, those two are not compatible. So it's thinking about how you can look at those from a different perspective. Now, I talk about this concept a lot in my practice. I've written a book on the same concepts, the 7 core pillars. If you guys have a business card that you want to drop in for a free draw, you're more than welcome to do that. Thank you so much for having me here today. And if there's any questions, I'll be sticking around for the next little while. You can come up, you can have a conversation, and we can chat more about the concepts of balance, the concepts of mixing, and what you need to live a richer life. Thank you.